Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We wanted to do this webinar for you because we get a lot of questions about credit card processing and the information that comes in it. And we know that accepting credit cards is essential to almost all businesses. It's going to be very rare that you'll go into any business where you're going to find that it's cash only type of business. So whether you're currently using Rosy and RosyPay or not, we're going to be talking about more than just your credit card rates today, and we're going to be discovering some other aspects of payment processing and some other important information that is not always commonly considered, but could be very essential to your business. So we're going to quickly review some of the core features that would be important to you, and then we're going to dive right into discussing some reporting, the dashboard, and what to do with all of the information. So again, thank you for joining us today. My name is Obiedzinski, the Director of Sales and Business Development here at Rosy Salon Software.
And I'm AJ Ricci. I'm a payment sales representative with RosyPay.
So we know that there's more to credit card processing than what people probably think. So if you're a numbers and reports type of person, you're going to love our presentation today. And if you're not a numbers and reports person, you're going to be glad that we made it super easy for you to understand and follow along. So AJ, what are some of these core features that a salon or spa may want to consider?
Yeah, so to start, you're definitely going to want security for your client's information. That's going to be at the forefront. So I would definitely suggest looking for a payments processor with PCI compliant chip and card readers, and then also tap and sign features plus credit card storage and mobile wallets, things like that.
So you'll notice that, AJ, you didn't mention any of these as software features, but these are more features for your credit card processing. So if you're not using RosyPay, check with your current processor for some of these features that are listed here. And if you have any questions about these that you are using RosyPay, you can connect with a RosyPay specialist. So if you are using RosyPay, again, feel free to follow along during this presentation today within your own account by going to your advanced settings, your credit card processing, and go all the way down to the bottom and click where it says Merchant Track. And for those of you who don't know RosyPay yet, AJ, can you explain just a little bit about what RosyPay is?
Definitely. Yeah, RosyPay is our in-house credit card processing. It is PCI compliant. It is contract free. It's a payment processing that integrates directly with your Rosy Salon software so that whether you're behind the counter or you're doing online, it's going to be the same experience either way. And no matter how you run your business, whether it's a busy front desk, you're going deskless, or you're completely mobile and you're doing weddings and events like that on the go, RosyPay is still going to be able to give you all those features that you want, like deposits and pre-authorizations, card on file, tap to pay options, and other things, but still be able to cost you a lot less.
Okay, that's such a huge benefit because like you said, this is all in-house. So the benefit is using Rosy, your scheduling software and your software for your business, as well as RosyPay, and everything is payments and merchant tracking all in one together. And it's all available right through your Rosy account. So AJ is going to walk us through all of these features and the reports in the merchant tracking.
Right. Let's go ahead and start just right on the landing page. What we're going to do is when you first log into Merchant Track, this is what you're going to come to as your landing page. It's called your Merchant Dashboard. We're going to start here and then work our way down that light blue column you see on the far left-hand side of your screen. Some of those options you have in there before moving into the report section, which is where most of our merchants are going to be spending a lot of their time when you are in Merchant Track. And that's where we're actually going to wrap up this presentation at. So jumping right into the Merchant Dashboard. At first glance, this is going to give you a summary of the day. It shows you total transaction counts, shows you a volume snapshot by merchant in that chart down at the bottom where you see the graph. You could actually have up to 20 merchants in there. So whether you're a busy salon with a lot of merchants, or you're just a single single salon with one single merchant account, you're going to be able to see those in there. You can select who you want to show, how many you want to show, to really drill down and get a big picture of what's going on with the merchants in your salon.
Okay, so AJ, by the merchant, you mean the business or the salon, right? So if it's an employee-based salon, there's really only going to be one merchant that's listed there, right? But if it's a booth rental salon, each renter is going to be listed, and they'll each be considered their own merchant. So this is also just a great place for them to glance at either their high volume days. They can check in on those booth renters and see how their volume is going at a big picture as the business owner.
Exactly. Each of those renters is going to have their own merchant account through RosyPay, so their own RosyPay account. So even though they operate independently from, financially independent from the salon, and they use their own, banking information, their reporting is all going to be viewable through the main salon merchant track account. Very similar to how the salon's used to seeing it in the Rosy software, where you've got the main software account and then all the employees.
AJ and
Okay.
Lori, we have
Yeah.
a real-time question here that I want to butt in on. Can you
Sure.
show the viewers one more time where they find this, please?
Yeah, so when you are logged in to your Rosy account, you're going to go to Manage tab, scroll down to your Advanced Settings. You're going to click on Credit Card Processing and scroll all the way down to the bottom. It says Merchant Track, and that will be a blue link. You'll be able to click that. Thanks, Elisa.
All right, so moving on to
AJ.
the next option here in that light blue vertical column on the far left-hand side of your screen, you're going to see an option called Transaction Search. So this is really useful when you want to look for a particular transaction. You can actually select which merchant you want to see the transaction for as well. So again, if you have multiple booth renters, you're going to be able to select who exactly you're searching for that transaction for. You could change the time zone, you could search by payment method, you could search by the account holder name, last 4 digits of the card number. There's a lot of different ways that you're going to be able to search. And we're going to see that on the next slide here. So as you select your parameters, you're then going to run your search. And this is what the results are going to look like. It's going to pop up a screen like this where you're going to see that transaction or those transactions, depending on how you're searching. And then if you actually click on the blue transaction ID, it's down there on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see it's a hyperlinked number. What you're going to notice in Merchant Track is anytime you see those blue numbers, that's a hyperlink that you can click on to actually take you to another section. So in this case, that transaction ID is going to take you to the exact screen where that, and the date and the time where that transaction originally occurred. And then there's also, I should mention as well, sorry, there's also a receipt option and a void or refund button here. You probably won't use this as much as you will just through your software if you're already running your own receipt printer, or you have, or you're voiding transaction, things like that directly through your software. This is another way you could do that as well.
AJ, these transaction searches, this would be helpful if a salon's customer ever were to claim that they were either charged the wrong amount, or they were charged multiple times, or that the card, processed multiple times, that they could find all of that information here in the transaction search.
Yeah, exactly. So you could search by the client, you could search by the card details, you could look at when they were charged, how many times they were charged, and how much that charge was for.
Okay, perfect.
So moving on to the next item here, again, we're still in that light blue vertical column on the far left-hand side of your Merchant Track screen. The next option down is the virtual terminal. This can be really, really useful. It's available for you in cases where in-store processing or physical card processing just isn't available. The one thing I do want to say about the virtual terminal, though, is that this would really be, we recommend to reserve this for times of emergency or absolute need, because when you're using a virtual terminal where you're not physically swiping the card, you're not able to get a PIN or a signature, you do run a higher risk of chargebacks and not being able to win those cases if they do occur. So the virtual terminal is suggested to be used in cases of emergency, but we definitely wanted you to know it is there, it is available for you in times that you do need to have that option.
So if there were ever a time that your credit card machine or swiper was not working, it was malfunctioning, it was not available, this is like your backup plan to be able to still process a credit card. So down on the bottom, though, there's an option, disable duplicate detection. What does that mean?
Yeah, good question. Duplicate detection, you're going to want to turn this on if you know you're going to be having a single card running multiple similar payments. So let's just give an example. And this might be a bad example because I would imagine they'd probably pay in one big payment for the group. But let's just say you are doing a wedding, you're running virtually, and one person is using their credit card to pay for the entire wedding party's hair, and it all costs the same, right? So they're going to be running multiple transactions. That's what that disabled duplicate detection is for. If you don't check that box, when you go to run that second payment for that same amount on the same card, the virtual terminal is not going to approve it. It's going to detect it as, you know, fraudulent or an error, and it's not going to let you run that payment through. So you want to check that box, and then you're going to be able to run all the rest of those payments through.
But that's not something that they would need to worry about if they are using their swiper and they're processing as a regular transaction through Rosy, right? That's only for using this virtual. Okay, perfect.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to get into the meat of Merchant Track. We're moving into the reports section, the reports menu. The reports menu is going to offer you a variety of different reporting options depending on what kind of data that you're actually going to be looking for. So we're going to move to the next slide here, which is going to start right from the top and work our way down, the funding summary report. When you click on that funding summary report, this is going to bring you to the parameters where you're going to determine exactly how you want to search. A tidbit I'm going to give you about Merchant Track here, Lori, is in Merchant Track, when you are setting your search parameters for the date range, that's highly customizable how you do that. If you choose a start date range but no end date range, it's going to give you back results, everything from the start date that you selected up until current. So it's going to run that. Alternately, if you put in an end date range but no start date range, it's going to search from the date that you selected all the way to when you first started processing with RosyPay. And then finally, obviously, if you search a start date range and an end date range, it's going to bring back results, everything within that period. Those rules are going to apply to every single report that you're going to run in Merchant Track, just as an FYI.
Okay.
So in the funding summary report, we're going to go ahead and set our date range, and then we're going to hit submit. Funding, when you see the term funding in Merchant Track, that's referring to ways that Full Steam RosyPay affected your bank account. So if something was funded to your bank account, then we deposited it into your bank account. That's going to bring you back results. And this is the result page you're going to see. Each deposit or withdrawal that happened from your bank account, if we're talking about fees, it's going to be withdrawal. If we're talking about transactions, it's going to be deposit. Each one of those is going to be a line item here that you're going to be able to look at. And then we'll dive a little bit further into this on the next slide here. So if you click on the hyperlinked funding ID number that we saw at the left-hand side of the screen, it's going to bring you to this breakdown. This is going to give you a breakdown of everything that made up that deposit. So going back one slide, you take that top line item, $5,000 deposit, you say, hey, I wonder what made that deposit up. You click on that funding ID, that's going to give you this breakdown right here. You're going to see every client or every transaction you made that is consisting of that funding.
AJ, on the previous slide here, these transactions are all listed for the same date. Why would there be multiple funding for?
Good question. Typically, you run one batch per day. You're going to see one deposit each day. A good example of when you'd see multiple is, let's say today, it's a Monday. You've got all your weekend transactions. So you've got your Friday, your Saturday, and your Sunday. They're each going to be a separate batch, but since we don't deposit over the weekend, Monday would be a time where you'd see multiple line items.
All right, perfect. So, and then also these are all listed per merchant, right? So if there's a salon that does have booth renters or they do have multiple merchants in their salon, are they all going to be able to see each other's financial reports this way?
It's also a really good question. The short answer is yes, that is possible. When you're searching, when you're working in Merchant Track, only the owners of the RosyPay account will have access to Merchant Track. They can decide which of their merchants they allow to see various parts of their Merchant Track. And when you're searching for these reports, you're going to be able to again checkbox which merchants you want to search for. So if you've got one of your team members with you, one of your merchants with you, you don't have to show the report for your entire team. You can select just that one merchant so they're not seeing everybody else's reports.
Okay, so the primary business owner really owns Merchant Track, so they can open it up to all merchants, and then they can either export or share that information with each of their renters or each merchant within the business.
Exactly. And these reports that you run, you'll see up in the top right corner if you're following along, there's a couple buttons up there, export to PDF or export to CSV. You can actually export those and convert them to Excel files or keep them as a PDF if you need to save them for your records or be able to give them to your team so they can see the breakdown.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank you.
AJ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm back again. It's Elisa. Can you one more time go through how you got to where you are? We had a couple of people that were unable to join on time and are really wanting to follow along. So if you could cover that again, that'd be great. Also, for everyone on the call, you will automatically receive a recording of this session 1 hour after the session ends. So if you've missed something, no fear, you'll get the recording as well.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay, so when you are logged into Rosy, go to your Manage tab, scroll down to your Advanced Settings, go down to your credit card processing, and then scroll all the way to the bottom where you're going to see Merchant Track. And you'll be able to click on that, and it will take you right into your RosyPay Merchant Track. And that's if you're using RosyPay right here already, because this is where you're going to be able to track like what we just covered, the financial side of it, where your funding side of it that was just funded.
Exactly. If you're not currently using RosyPay, you're not going to have that Enter Merchant Track button at the bottom. So just keep that in mind. And then once you got into Merchant Track, to bring you up to speed to where we are, what we did is on the far left-hand side of your screen, once you click Enter Merchant Track and you come to the Merchant Dashboard, the far left-hand side of your screen, there's a light blue vertical column with some clickable options in there. You're going to click the bottom one called Reports, and we just finished up with the first report, which is the Funding Summary Report. Well, just to real quickly highlight for any of those who weren't able to be on during that section, funding has to do with how your bank account was affected, whether it was a withdrawal or a deposit to your bank account. So if you're looking for activity that happened on a specific day in the funding summary report, those are deposits that happened on that day or withdrawals for fees if that's the case, you're on a monthly fee withdrawal. That's what the funding summary report is going to be used for. So you can click through there, you can set the date parameters, search for specific days, and then you can also click on the funding ID as you run that report and see a breakdown of which transactions make up that particular funding. And that's where we're at right now.
All right, thanks, AJ. All right, so
Absolutely.
transaction.
Yeah, so if we go back to the reports menu, click on reports, we're going to select the next one down, which is the transaction summary report. This is going to give you a broad scope of information. This is, again, you're going to be able to select the parameters of how you search. When you select the transaction summary report, you're going to be able to select, it's going to show you the total transaction count, the volume per day for each payment method, and it's going to be able to break it down by daily, monthly, quarterly, and yearly options. So for this example, we're just going to, assume we put in some search parameters here, bounce over to the next slide. Once you run that search in the transaction summary report, this is what you're going to see. It's going to give you that breakdown. Each of those line items there at the bottom where you see authorization date, transaction count, and merchant display name, you can actually click on each of those line items. I think we have a slide to show that where you can, on the next slide here. When you click that, it's going to give you a breakdown by card type. So it gives authorization date, count, and totals. And then it'll break it down by card brand. All right, so we're going to move on to the next report here. This is where we're going to start getting into some chargeback reporting. For any of those of you who don't know what a chargeback is, a chargeback begins when a cardholder goes to their issuing bank. They state, hey, I didn't authorize this charge, or it's for the wrong amount, or something's wrong, and they want to dispute that charge. That is what a chargeback is. At that point, the bank is then going to set off a chain of events leading up to the final outcome of the chargeback or the dispute. So in the chargeback summary report, this is going to provide you with daily, monthly, quarterly, and yearly reports, and you can select the start and end date ranges. So we're going to go ahead and select our parameters here on this page, and we're going to hit submit. And this is going to bring you to this report here. For more details, you can actually go back and select the chargeback report, which we will wind up going into here in a moment, and get more information about that chargeback. But this is more just going to give you a summary of, hey, what chargebacks do I have going on? What's a little bit of the information about them? There's other reports we're going to dive into that are going to break it down further for you.
AJ, we're seeing a little bit more of a common thing happening in salons where there's a lot of no-shows happening and a last-minute cancellation. So
right.
Setting up deposits and taking, keeping a credit card on file, things like that are things that salons are really starting to use as best practices. But they also are starting to see some who are disputing those. So if they don't show up for their appointment and they get charged, you know, a percentage of that service that they scheduled for showing on that service, they're going and they're disputing that. So this would be a report that they can pull to see which customers are doing that. Is it, you know, a repeat person that's doing it all the time that's charging that back, and they can dispute this with that customer and maybe uninvite them to their salon potentially?
Yeah, those are all potential options, and these reports are going to help you to really narrow down what's going on. And again, like you said, if you're seeing a pattern with particular clients. Unfortunately, chargebacks do happen. You know, as a business owner, if you're taking credit card payments, you're probably going to see that, or you already have seen that from time to time. Not a fun process to go through, but there are things you can do to mitigate the risk of disputes happening, such as a big one is going to be your cancellation policy, making sure your team, number one, your staff understands the cancellation policy, is properly explaining it when your clients are booking appointments. A big thing is to get your cancellation policy posted everywhere you possibly can, at your front desk, on your website, on your door, whatever you could do to make your clients well aware of what that cancellation policy is. And then finally, the best line of defense you can have at getting ahead of disputes or chargebacks before they even happen is having some kind of a signature, whether it's in the salon, you get a signature sign off, or if they're booking online, you get a checkbox feature where they have to actually acknowledge that, hey, you know, I did see the cancellation policy and I accept those terms.
Awesome. And Rosy does have that acknowledgement through their online scheduling. So perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. So like I said, we're going to get a little bit further into chargeback reporting. This is, again, a really important topic for merchants. When you are seeing these chargebacks happen, you want to have the details on them. So if you actually go to the next report down in your list, again, you're going to go to the light blue vertical column on the left side of your screen, click on reports, and we're in the next report down called the chargeback report. Again, very similar. You're going to set your parameters. You're going to be able to go ahead and hit submit, and it's going to bring you to this kind of a results page. You're then going to see the chargeback amount. You're going to see the date. You can see the reason for the dispute. You can click on the transaction ID, go to the original date and time that the transaction actually happened. And then you can actually click the chargeback ID, which is in that second column from the left there, to see additional details about that particular chargeback. And one more time, we're going to go back to the reports menu, light blue vertical column on the left side of your screen, click reports, and then go to the chargeback action report. So for those of you who are big on details and want to know every step that's happening with your reporting and your chargebacks, this is going to be the report for you. The chargeback action report is going to give you every single action that's happened on a chargeback for the life of that chargeback. So from the date it was first initiated until the date that you're at right now, whether it's been resolved or it hasn't been resolved, this is going to give you a step-by-step every single action that's happened during the life of that chargeback. All right. So that wraps up our chargeback reporting. Again, you've got a chargeback summary report, just going to give you a 30,000-foot overview, just what's going on with my chargebacks for whatever date range I selected. You're going to have the chargeback report, which is going to allow you to get specific information about particular chargebacks. And then you're also going to have the chargeback action report, which is going to give you a step-by-step every activity that's happened on a chargeback for the life of that chargeback. Now we're going to move into some transaction information. So going back to the reports menu, you're going to click the next one down called the transactions report. Now there's more detailed transactions reports we're going to get into here in a little bit, Lori, but starting with this one here, this one's going to provide you with information about transactions based on the transaction date. Going to the next slide here, after you set your parameters, just like everything else, this is where we're going to start to get more detailed with those transactions. When you run that transactions report, you're going to be able to actually see the funding date. Again, funding is the way in which your account was impacted by RosyPay. So the date that the transaction was funded is the date it was deposited into your account. And it's going to give you details if that transaction failed, if it was canceled, if there was an error at some point with it, or if it batched. Batched is the term for went through successfully and closed out on your batch report for the day. So in my personal opinion, I argue that the transactions report and the funding summary report are potentially two of your most important reports in Merchant Track. The funding summary report, you're able to track down everything that's happened with your bank account, track the deposits and the withdrawals. And then the transactions report is really the source of all that, where you're able to go back and see what transactions have been happening, which triggered the funding summary reports. So those two reports work hand in hand with each other.
Okay, thanks for clarifying the two of those also, because I think that that's very important.
Absolutely.
All right.
All
That's
right.
beautiful.
The merchant statement, everybody's bread and butter when it comes to transactions and processing payments. So the merchant statement is available to you on the 5th of every month. This is the last report we're going to look at in Merchant Track. This is going to provide you the merchant information. I'm sorry, it's going to provide you with your merchant information. It's going to give you the statement period. It's going to give you transaction information, refunds and chargeback information. This is basically just a summary of everything that you did the previous month. So we're going to start right at the top of the first page here. Right at the top of the first page of your merchant statement is the summary and the summary by day section. That's going to provide you with an overview of all the transaction history from that month. One thing I just do want to point out real quickly here is that on your merchant statement, it calculates days from midnight to 11:59 p.m., which is a little bit different than what your batch closes at. So just keep that in mind. If you're seeing things not quite aligned, they're a little bit off, that's why. Full 24 hours on your merchant statement, whereas your batch closes at the batch time that it's set for. And then next section down, sorry, lost my spot for a second. Next section down is going to give you the summary by payment method. So this section is the transaction summary report that we looked at a little bit earlier, where you get to break it down by card brand type. That's what this section is.
Okay, I love this report because this is a clean, crisp report that a salon owner can just hand off right to the accountant at the end of the month and reconcile with their monthly reporting within Rosy and track all of their financials in one report in one spot.
Exactly. This report, along with some of the other ones that we talked about, are going to be everything you need to be able to get everything aligned. Just keep in mind, like I said earlier, days are 24 hours on the merchant statement, whereas they're a little bit different in other places, but that's it. Going on to the next page here, page 2. The first section on page 2 is your summary by deposit section, and that's going to describe, again, all the ways in which Full Steam or RosyPay affected the merchant's bank account. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to processing fees, if you're on a monthly fee withdrawal, we process, or we bill in arrears. So that fee withdrawals that occur on the 15th of the current month, those are actually all of your processing fees from the previous month. And that's what you're going to see in the fee summary section. And then finally, when you get to the third page here, this is your chargebacks or any ACH returns that were billed. That's going to be shown right at the bottom of page 3. And that is your merchant statement in a nutshell.
Love it. Okay, so like Elisa said, you can get connected with us if you have more questions or specific questions that you would like to answer. If you're not currently using Rosy at all, you could go ahead and scan the QR code that you see on the left to get connected to Rosy, which then we can introduce you to RosyPay for your payments. If you are currently using Rosy but not quite using RosyPay yet, or if you are using RosyPay but just have some more questions, you can also go and scan the QR code on the right. You can get connected with a payment specialist to answer any questions that you may have, or to get started with your RosyPay application. We do have a couple upcoming events that we just wanted to share with you. We are talking about how to level up your guest experience in the salon. So you can join us on September 19th. And it's going to be a live event on our Facebook page and in our Facebook community. So if you're not quite in our Facebook community yet, you can join that group through Facebook, and you can also follow that on our LinkedIn page and our YouTube channel, and that's September 19th. And then we're also going to be talking on October 6th for digital tipping and how it will save your assets, and again, that's going to be a live event as well. So thank you for attending with us. If you do have any questions, Elisa, are there any questions that we can answer from anybody right now?
Yes, actually, there's quite a few. And I think these are great questions. So anyone who has time to hang on, I would suggest doing so because you're learning from your peers. And these are some great questions. So awesome. Yeah, I think AJ, the first one goes to you. When we have a car stored on file, I noticed that it is listed as a contactless charge.
Right.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. And then kind of a follow-on to that, the same person is asking, if it's disputed, it would be hard to show that the client was present because the card was given to us when it was loaded onto their account. Do we have any best practices or any response to that sort of an issue?
That's a really good question.
Has occurred?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it is a good point to point out when you're using card on file, which is very, very common. I would argue most salons are using card on file in some way, shape, or form these days. There is that risk because the client isn't necessarily physically handing you the card. You're just running that on file. Does open you up to some risk if you are going to run that process. You can have chargebacks. In my experience, it's not very common. We don't see it a lot, but anytime you're not physically running a card, that risk is going to be there.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully that answers that question. If not, call AJ. Now going back to Tippy, we've actually had a couple of questions specific to Tippy. Most of the questions are just around, will you cover it? So Lori or AJ, would you give a brief overview of Tippy for the folks that are asking?
Sure. So Tippy is our newest feature that is exclusive for our RosyPay users. So if you're not using RosyPay yet and you want to explore Tippy, we have to get started on our payment side first because they work hand in hand. So Tippy is our solution for digital tipping. So it helps to eliminate the cash transactions going back and forth. It helps to eliminate running out of cash out of your cash drawer. It's going to help you eliminate the credit card processing fees that you as the salon owner are paying on that portion of the tips that are getting processed. And it helps to eliminate paying out tips biweekly or on a payroll system, rather using Tippy as a solution. It's one transaction with a swipe during the service checkout, and that tip goes digitally paid to the service provider instantly via a digital wallet or an app that they have, and it lets them know as soon as a tip was sent to them, how much the tip was and who it was from, and they are able to go out and use that money through a digital wallet anywhere they want instantly. They can also transfer that money if they wish into their separate bank account. They can have it transferred that way if they would like. But it is a digital tipping solution. We are seeing that tips are increasing by using Tippy and digital tipping. Their service providers are earning more money that way. And the salon owners are saving a lot of the money because if you do process a high volume in tips, you're no longer paying that credit card processing fee on it. Rather, the customer in return is paying a convenience fee. And so they essentially take over that fee for you. And so it relieves that fee from you. I hope that helps. Any other questions, Elisa?
Yes, there are, but I was on mute. Sorry about that. AJ, can you speak to the RosyPay actual percentage rates?
Yeah, good question. RosyPay actual percentage rates. We are in the business of doing the best thing we can for our clients. So best recommendation I can give you, we have our flat rates that we do offer. That's 2.55% plus 10 cents per transaction. But best activity you could do to get the best rate possible would be to get us over your statements. You can your current processing statements with your existing processor. You can email those to save@rosypay.com and just request a statement analysis. We would be more than happy to do a complete review of your existing processing statements for you. We can give you an accurate breakdown of what your current rates actually are, and then we can give you a side-by-side comparison where we would be able to give you a quote based on your current processing volume. We're extremely competitive with our quotes, and we're always going to do what's in the best interest of the client. So again, that email address, if you would like to send over your statements for a review, you can send them to save@rosypay.com and just request a statement analysis.
Great, thank you.
I just say that's something that we do see commonly when people do want to apply is we ask them for their current statements, and a lot of times people don't know where to find them. and we have to help them with their current processor on how to track that down or how to get that report. So just to show everybody on what our previous slides were, that report, that merchant track report that we just showed, all the colorful, crisp, clean one, is exactly what is available to them all the time, where they can get that report easily right from Rosy. And so even if you're not considering making a change, I would just go and ask your processor where you can find that is anyway, just so you know, and you can look at it, you can explore it, and you know how to find it in the future, and you can track your business that way.
That's a great point.
Okay. Does it cost more per charge with the card on file?
Great question. It depends on what rate you're on. If you're on a flat rate, no, the flat rate applies to everything. However, if you are on a custom interchange plus rate, yes, there will be some variance when you're using, anytime you're using card not present, which would be a virtual terminal, you're taking a payment over the phone and you're doing manual entry, or you're using card on file, all those would be considered card not present. They will have some impact on your processing rates, and it's going to vary depending on the card brand.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me make sure I got them all. There are a couple here that I've responded to in writing.
Okay.
For those people I can't, the things that we need to address with them directly. Another one here, I don't know if anybody deals with this, but they do someone who does massages at their spa, and they accept HSA debit cards or credit cards loaded with services. We have a few clients for which we keep getting denials on those cards.
Yeah.
Would we know any insight into what the reason would be?
Yeah, exactly. We actually are getting that more and more commonly. And the reason you're probably seeing those denials is because you don't have a merchant account that has been authorized and cleared to accept HSA and FSA payments. If you'd like to get that resolved, email us at save@rosypay.com and just let us know your business ID, the name of your business, and what your situation is, and that you'd like to get an HSA authorization set up, and we can help you get through that process. It's pretty quick and easy to do. We'll just get that taken care of right away, and then you can start taking those HSA and FSA payments.
Lisa, you're muted if there's any other questions.
Yes, I'm muted again. You guys need to get a more professional moderator here. I'm talking away to the mute button.
I love it.
Each month, a withdrawal is taken out of our account. What exactly does that encompass? I thought the fees were taken out prior to depositing funds on that particular day.
Yeah, another awesome question. These are great questions. I love these. So the reason you're seeing a withdrawal come out on the 15th of each month, I can only speculate without looking at your specific account, but I would imagine that means you're on a monthly fee withdrawal. So at some point, perhaps it was requested to go on a monthly fee withdrawal, and we could change that if you'd like. So if you're on a monthly fee withdrawal, you're going to see the charge come out once a month on the 15th of the month, and that's going to be for the previous month's processing fees, all of them together. However, if you're on a daily fee withdrawal, then it's going to be coming out daily before you even get the deposit into your bank account. Then you can go back and actually look at the fees that were withdrawn by going to your funding summary report, setting the parameters, finding the deposit for that day, click on the funding ID for that deposit, and you're going to see a list of all the transactions. On the right-hand side, you're going to see a fees column. That's going to show you all the fees that were taken out per transaction. That's if you're on a daily fee withdrawal and you just want to see what was taken out from the day before.
Great, thank you. Thank you. That was a great question.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so AJ, this has come up a couple of times as well in the question panel. Why don't credit card companies, specifically in this case RosyPay, why don't they offer for the clients to pay the credit card fees? Tippy aside, because Lori addressed the Tippy functionality, why is RosyPay not offer for the clients to pay the fees?
That's another really good question. There's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, I would look at your state regulations. One of the things that we need to be very cautious and mindful of is that each state is going to have different rules and regulations and laws to take care of that, whether it's legal or not to do it. We do need to be very cautious per state. However, we also understand it is something that's being more and more commonly requested. Not every card processor or merchant service provider offers that ability. There are a select few out there that I'm aware of, but again, it is becoming more and more popular, and more merchant service providers are looking into being able to do this, especially in the past couple of years. So we are looking into it as well. I don't have an exact answer for you right now on specific dates and times that we're going to be able to do that, or if we're going to be able to do that, but it is something we're seriously looking into based on specifically feedback like this from our clients. It is being requested and something that we're looking into.
Great, thank you, AJ.
Absolutely.
All right, and I'm not on mute. Amazing. Okay, I really, a couple more. I'm so sorry. They're coming in fast and furious.
Fire away. They're awesome.
To review our statements to see what current rates and fees are. Oh, wait a minute. To review our statements to see what current rates and fees are. And would flat rate versus custom, bottom line, would flat rate versus custom be better? Can you address that to the general audience?
As a general rule of thumb, it just all depends on your processing volume. There are benefits to both. The only way to really know what's going to be best for you and your salon is to get that statement review done, so we can look at what you're currently paying in processing fees, and whether it's through us or any other merchant, do the best thing for your business. But it is important for you to be in the know, and we are happy to offer that complimentary analysis for you to take a look at what you're currently paying, what your current volume is, and then make some recommendations for you based on that.
Great.
So to answer your question, I suppose the best answer is it's very client specific. It's very specific. It depends on your business and what you're processing there. So it's not a cookie cutter for everybody.
I want to add to that too, because in addition to just your rates, by doing a statement analysis, RosyPay can also help find any fees that you may have hiding in your statement somewhere that you may be paying that maybe you don't see those. They're not called out and highlighted for you. So they'll be able to find that also, because sometimes you may have what you think is a good rate, but you're paying a lot of different additional fees that maybe RosyPay could help reduce or eliminate.
Right on. We see that all the time.
All right. Thank you, AJ and Lori. It appears the volume of questions has slowed down. We don't have any others. Thank you.
Awesome.
Happy to answer them. These have been really, really good questions.
If you have any other questions, RosyPay team can be reached at save@rosypay.com, or you can reach out to our support team with any other questions or how to get started on your application at support@rosysalonsoftware.com. But thank you, AJ, for all of your information and help today and helping people work through their merchant track and understand it a little bit better. I'm sure it was very valuable to everybody. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to everybody that joined us, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.